Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Bagwindy DIY Auto, and this is another video on my Chrysler Town and Country. Now today I'm going to replace my front and rear brakes. I've done a video where I unboxed the parts. If you want to see the video, you can go ahead and check it out. Go to Bagwindy DIY Auto and check the parts that I checked out. So I have already replaced the right brakes because of time consuming, so I decided to go ahead and do it off camera. And here are the parts that came from the right brakes. These are the right brakes here. You can see where it's worn down to metal right here, and it actually scarred the disc. This is the front brake disc right here. See how it has the scars, grooves all the way around because of the metal to metal. And the last time I've done these brakes, I believe it was 5 years ago. So I believe I got my money's worth out of these brake discs. They maybe could be good for a machine, but I just don't want to take any chances because I'm getting pulsations and I can tell the brake disc probably warped, and that's where I got the bouncy feeling from my brake pedals. So that's the old brake disc and brakes for the front. Now here is the rear disc. This one here is good, nothing's wrong with it, but I just don't want to do it twice. So I decided to order brand new rear and front brake discs and brake pads. And these are the old pads. They're like 50% worn. See, normally combine these two would be like one brake pad's thickness right there. So I got like 50% out of the rear brakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace them all. Now here are the new brake disc. This is the new one for the rear, and these are my new brake pads here. New pads, and I'm going to replace these guys. Now the front brakes are, these are the brake pads for the front brakes. They are much larger pads. There were 4 of them in there, but I've already used 2 on the right side, and these are the new ones for the left sides. And there is my new brake disc for the front here. See, this is for this guy here. That's the new one here. So that's what my task is for today. So now the tools that I need are, here they are. I'll show you what they are. Now this is the rear disc brake caliper tools right here. And one of these guys I'm going to use. How it's going to work is, I'll show you when I get to that point. But this is going to stick inside here. And then these 2 pins is going to attach to the pistons, which is on this caliper here. And then I'm going to turn it and twist it in until I get it all the way in. Now, how the rear caliper works here, it works, it's a dual system here. It works hydraulically and mechanically. The mechanical part of this here is your emergency brakes with cables. And here's the cable for your emergency brakes. So once you apply the emergency brakes, this linkage here pull forward, and then the pistons is actually on a threaded shaft here is the linkage for your emergency brakes right here. So once you apply emergency brakes, it pulls this here, and then the pistons, which is inside the caliper here, rotates out. But it doesn't rotate because it's stationary. What happened is this here, linkage here, actually rotates and pushes the pistons inward and locks the brake pads on your brake disc. And that's how it works. Now the hydraulic system now works, and when you apply the brakes, it actually slides over the shaft, and it does not affect your emergency brakes. It just slides out and locks against your brake disc while the vehicle is moving. So it's a dual system. So that's why I'm going to need this tool here to rotate the pistons back inward, because it actually expands when you apply your brakes, and while the brake discs worn down, the pistons kept coming out and out. So I'm going to need this tool here to rotate it back in, that I can go ahead and install the new brake pads. Okay, so this is one of the tools I'm going to need. The next tool I'm going to need here is a 18mm socket and a breaker bar, this guy here, and a 1/2 inch to remove the caliper of the device right here, stationary device here. So let's get into that. Now for the front brakes, all I need for the front brakes is a pair of clamps, this guy here, same process to compress the pistons. Now the front calipers are dual pistons, so I'm going to show you the trick how to compress it and bring the pistons inward, that I can apply, that I can attach these new brake pads here. So for right now, I'm going to start on the rear brakes. So let's get into that. So the first thing I did, guys, before I get to this point, I make sure I apply safety. The first thing I did, I set the emergency brakes. See, right now the emergency brakes is locked. It's locked. And then I placed 2 blocks on the opposite side I'm working on. Let me show you right here. I placed 2 blocks on the opposite side here, just in case if the emergency brakes fail. And actually, I will have to release the emergency brakes when I'm doing the rear brakes, and to prevent the vehicle from rolling off the jack stands. So here are the safety I put in place here. After I put the emergency brakes in place, I raise the vehicle, and then I go ahead and put the jack stands underneath the vehicle. And then I put the tires. You notice the tires underneath the vehicle here, guys? The reason for that is just in case these jack stands fail, the vehicle will not fall on the ground. So I just only have these here for secondary support, just in case. These are brand new jack stands I purchased, so I'm just now using these. So that's the secondary safety I put in place right here. All right, so now I'm in the process now of starting working on my rear brakes. So the first tool I'm going to need here is a 1/2 inch or a 13mm socket. That's that guy right there. First, I'm going to remove my, first I'm removing my caliper. Okay, now I can go ahead and release the emergency brakes because I need to remove the caliper. Okay, now I release the emergency brakes. I can now turn my wheel assembly here. Now I can go ahead and remove my caliper. Okay, now I get my caliper off here, get it out of the way just for easier access. Here are my brake pads, I just slide it out here. That's one half, slide the other one out. You can see they're 50% worn. So now, in order for me to get my brake rotor off, I have to move this device right here. I forgot what's the name of it, but I got to remove this. And that's where my 18mm socket comes in play. And here's my 18mm socket here. 18mm socket. I'm going to attach it to my breaker bar. And the bolts are right here. Right here. And that's it right here. See the caliper attached to these points right here. And these points here attach this back to the vehicle. So this is how this guy is. Now I can remove my brake rotor and go ahead. In the meantime, just slide my new brake rotor on. Then I can go ahead and reattach my bracket here. And then I can go ahead and retort my bolts. Give it an extra tweak. Give this one an extra tweak right here. Okay. Now I got my caliper. Now I got my brake rotor back in place here. Got the new one back in place. Now I got my new rotor on. I can now go ahead and work backward. Before I place my brake pads in here, I'm just going to go ahead and slide some grease in here that the brake pads, they can slide much freer. So let me get some grease. Okay, here's the brake grease here. Came in the kit. Can go ahead and just slide some up in here. And also I can put some on the on my brake pads here. Okay, now here is the indicator right here, guys. This is the indicator whenever the brake pads worn down to this point here and you start getting that squeaky noise. This is where it tells you to remove your brake pads and put new ones in before it goes down to metal. Okay, so that is just for information. All right, so okay. Okay, that's that guy right here. There the guys here. Let's see. Okay, now my brake pads are in place here. It's time for me now to adjust my brake caliper pistons inward. You see how it expanded out. If I were to attach it, it will not work because the thickness of the brake pads will not allow the caliper to sit in place. So this is where the tool comes in place here. You gotta have this tool here, guys. So this is where this comes in place. So how this works is, make sure I have the right one for it. Okay, this is the right one for it. See, these two pins sits in here. These slots here sits in it like that. And then you see how this curvature, it sits. Let me back it out. Sits in here just like that. Back it out some more. Sits in there. Then this guy goes in there like that. And this sits. And then rotate this backward here. Okay, rotate this back and lock this plate here against the outer part of the caliper while the tool sits in place. And then this is where you turn this guy right here. Let me get a socket for it. Okay. All right, so now this is how it works. This part here sits in the caliper, and this device here sits into this wheel right here. And then you turn this big nut here and locks it against this part of the caliper. And now I can turn this guy here. See what's happening? Notice what is happening. The caliper is going inward. The pistons is going in. Okay, now look at the process. See, pistons is going in. Turn it until it's come to a complete stop. Right now it's rotating on the threaded shaft inside of the caliper. Once it comes to a complete stop, Okay, that's it. That's the end of the traverse right there. Now I can go ahead and remove the tools by release this locking nut here and remove the tool from there. So now I have enough space to reinstall the caliper. But before I get to that point, let me go ahead and reinstall this caliper here, this brake pad that popped back out. Okay. All right. Now I got the brake pads in place. Now it's time for me to now reattach my caliper. See how easily it slides on. Now I got my caliper in place. I can now go ahead and reattach my hardware. Then I can go ahead and retort my bolts here. Okay. Okay. And that's it for my rear brakes removal installation. Now I can go ahead and attach my wheels. Okay guys, so now you see how I replaced my rear brakes. It's time for me now to move on to my front brakes. So anyway guys, this video is getting too long. So what I'm going to do here is do two separate videos, the front and the rear. So I will upload the front video 3 days after replacing the rear brakes. So thanks again guys, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you. See you in the next video. Goodbye.